You know him, you likely love him. Christian McCaffrey is one of, if not the best running backs in the league. So let's talk about how he got here.
Continue that after the play.
McCaffrey out of the backfield. Oh, he puts a beautiful move on Najee Good.
Good old Christian Jackson McCaffrey was born in Castle Rock, Colorado, as the son of Super Bowl winning wide receiver Ed McCaffrey and Stanford soccer star Lisa. Athletics were just in the DNA for Christian, so it seemed inevitable that he would go off in high school. At Valorant Christian, my man was a do-it-all type of player, whether at punter, cornerback, wide receiver, or running back. He was just good at everything. So with this in mind, it wasn't much of a surprise that through 4 years with the team, Christian set Colorado high school records for the most career touchdowns, all-purpose yards, touchdown receptions, and single-season yardage. All things considered, it only made sense that he was a Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year, but crazy enough he did it back-to-back as a junior and senior. But not only was Christian just a phenomenal football player, he also did his thing on the basketball court and was an extremely talented track star. As a sophomore, he was able to run a 10.75 100-meter sprint, and upon that, finished top 10 in the 100 and 200 the following year. Plain and simple, Christian was an athlete, and although he didn't go to some powerhouse of a high school, he was still a top 100 recruit in the country as a near 5-star. Considering his impressive high school career, schools like Boise State, ASU, and Stanford were interested in the stud. And although a tough decision, ultimately Christian followed in the footsteps of his parents by committing to Stanford. Although only a freshman, Christian was still able to play in 13 games and put up a combined over 550 yards and 2 touchdowns. Considering that he was 4th on the depth chart at this point, it was pretty impressive, but not even close to what he would do the following years. Somehow Christian went from 4th to 1st in no time, and took full advantage of the starting spot.
Burns looking for McCaffrey, and look out! What a way to start the night!
Over 2,000 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground were ridiculous for even someone as talented as Christian, and along with over 605 through the air, were historic. Not only did he surpass a legend in Barry Sanders with over 3,800 all-purpose yards, but he also became the first Stanford player to ever have over 2,000 on the ground. Crazy enough, Christian did all this on the same team as Barry's son, and so it seemed like he was in the stars. Not only was he just a consensus All-American, but the Associated Press College Football Player of the Year, Paul Hornung Award winner, and second in the voting for the Heisman to Derrick Henry. Looking back, many think that Christian deserved the hardware over the future Titan star, and a lot of people talk about how the late games possibly hurt his exposure. But either way, people were made well aware of what a talent Christian is. Against USC in the Pac-12 championship, my man put up over 450 all-purpose yards, and to add on to that, had over 100 rushing and receiving with a Rose Bowl record near 370 combined yards. To say that Christian was anything short of incredible is a disservice to the highest degree. And without a doubt, if he would have declared for the draft after such a season, my man would have probably been a very high pick. But nonetheless, considering how insane a year he had as a sophomore, it seemed like he took a bit of a dip the following season as he had over 700 less all-purpose yards. But funny enough, he had a better yards per carry average on the ground and was able to score 3 more touchdowns than his sophomore year. Somehow Christian was still able to lead the nation with a ridiculous over 710 all-purpose yard average, and upon that the Pac-12 with over 1,600 on the ground in only 11 games. Many criticized his decision to not play in the Sun Bowl in order to prepare for the draft, but in the end it turned out to be the right choice.
8th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers have selected Christian McCaffrey.
Even though he wasn't able to match his sophomore production, Carolina saw a star in Christian, and so they decided to take him 8th off the board. Although he was seen by many as a borderline top 5 talent at the position, he was the second one taken after only the LSU stud in Fournette. So with that in mind, going into Christian's first year, there were quite a few questions about whether or not he could take a starting spot early on. And considering that a veteran in Jonathan Stewart, along with a dual threat Q and Cam Newton were ahead of him, it seemed like a bit of a tall task. And although he wasn't able to start, Christian still did his thing with over 1,000 all-purpose and 7 touchdowns, even though he wasn't given a ton to work with. Not too shabby of a way to start off your time in Carolina, and yet my man had not shown anything yet. With the team releasing Jonathan the following offseason, Christian was put in a great spot to kill it in only his second year, and he did just that.
Newton stepping up and throwing for McCaffrey, he's got a touchdown!
This time nearly 2,000 combined yards in both the rushing and receiving game propelled Christian to stardom as he was able to make his first All-Pro team. Funny enough, my man was the first white running back to rush for over 1,000 since former Madden cover athlete Peyton Hillis back in 2010, and even crazier was only the second since '85. All things considered, you'd think it'd be tough for Christian to improve his game the following year, but he was on timing.
McCaffrey has a blocker in front of him, and it's Olsen, the tight end. He has a first down, and McCaffrey, still on his feet, goes in for the touchdown.
Just under 2,400 all-purpose yards were video game numbers for someone in the NFL, and especially a player on a team like Carolina, where it seemed like most of the attention was just focused on stopping him. So considering how well he played, it wasn't a surprise that Christian made his first Pro Bowl and his second straight All-Pro team. Crazy enough, Christian had a league-leading 43% yard share, as he practically carried the entire team with his giant arms.
What? Bro, what are you talking about?
Such statements aside, it seemed like the sky was the limit for his potential. And after signing a 4-year, $64 million contract to become the highest paid running back in NFL history, I'm sure he wanted to do his thing. But a high ankle sprain early in the year, and then a shoulder injury against KC in Week 9, kept him from finding his footing, as he was barely able to play that year. In the only 3 games that he didn't end up playing in, Christian was still able to put up nearly 400 all-purpose yards, which is pretty impressive considering that he was dealing with injury most of the time. But either way, following such an underwhelming season, it seemed like 2021 was going to be a massive bounce back. But issues with his hamstring and an ankle injury in Week 12 forced him to miss the rest of the season once again. In this time, a whopping 7 games, Christian was still able to put up nearly 800 and a ridiculous 2 touchdowns. Rough enough, in only 2 seasons, Christian was only able to play in 10 games. And so going into this year, he's looking to get back to business in Carolina. Instead of lining up behind Cam, times have changed, and as of a week ago, good old Baker Mayfield is now up to bat. And I'm sure he himself is looking to prove the doubters wrong. At the very least, Christian sure as heck is trying to, and the football world is well aware of it, as he is currently the frontrunner for Comeback Player of the Year. If he's able to produce nearly as well as he did only a few seasons ago, then I have next to no doubt that he will at least end the season with some hardware. Considering that Baker Mayfield is used to an offense with a great rushing game, I don't expect him to prevent Christian from going off, and in fact I think he'll give my man opportunities to prove if he is really back or not. But what do you guys think? Is Christian McCaffrey going to bounce back in 22, or is there too much stacked against him? Let me know your thoughts. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in football when healthy, and I have no doubt that he's going to prove it this season.
Blitz coming. Bridgewater has a man open. McCaffrey, he will walk in for the touchdown.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.